What's up, everybody? Welcome to Marriage Unmastered, Season 3. We're here with the video version now. We have special guests. Number one, my wife, the lovely Shireal.
Hey, what's going on?
And we have our guests here on the line. We'll let you guys introduce yourselves.
I'm Drew Cost. This is my wife. Her name is Jermika Cost.
Like, do he know her name?
We started early today.
All right, cover each other.
My bad.
I'm supposed to jump in. All right.
We're really excited to have you guys here. As we talked about a little bit earlier, you are our first guest on the podcast ever.
Nice.
So we're excited to be sharing this space with you two. Excited about the conversation we're about to have. So we want to just first thank you for being here. And we're going to go ahead and jump in. So our topic for today, which is, I feel like, very relevant, especially to this where we are in the world right now with all of this women's equality. And we'll talk about my feelings on that later. But so our topic for today is, do you have to change who you are to be married? So I actually am going to let you guys start with opening this up. I'm going to pose that question to you. Did you have to change who you were when you two got married?
We'll let Jermika talk first.
You know what? Get out of here. I'm always talking.
On this one.
Yes. And you know what? I can't say from day one, though, that it was known that for me that I had to change. Like, I don't think I had the expectation of change. Actually, I didn't. I thought who I am today on that day was the same that I would be now, almost going on 5 years later. And that ain't it. Nope. That's not true. Your girl had a lot of wake-up calls with that one.
Really?
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So I would say I did not know I had to change, but yes, I had to change.
I would say you don't have to change. You're just not going to last. In the marriage, because something that we always talk about is when you get married, to me, I feel your triggers go off all of a sudden more than they were before. Some trauma can come up that may have been buried from before, or just the way you've always done things isn't always the best for a couple now, your wife or your husband, or for a household. So I say you don't have to change the core of who you are as a person, but how you see and do things. You're still going to have a choice. You don't have to change. It's just going to make it a lot harder. And sometimes you realize sometimes making some compromises about how you see and do things could be beneficial than just holding on to how you've always done it.
Okay. Let me get my shovel out, right? Because I want to do some digging. So who noticed first, like, what was it when you realized you had to change? And that it could be for anybody, Drew or Jermika, it doesn't matter.
First, I don't know if you knew, Henry, that I love to get the shovel terminology. So kudos for that.
Nice.
I think I noticed. I didn't think she knew. And I knew it, but I didn't think she knew it because she didn't say anything at first. So I thought maybe I don't have to change this, but I knew immediately from when we were on the honeymoon and things like that. It's like, whoa, you're probably not gonna be able to like just get up super early and be like 5 hours by yourself. There's someone else now to entreat you. And that was different for me. I didn't think she noticed that until we talked.
So conversation had to happen.
Yeah, we had intense intellectual fellowship. And the Lord was in it at first.
So let me dig in a little bit deeper. So when you got up and was like, you have your me time, right? Your 4 or 5 hours in the morning, and you got somebody over here like, no. What you doing?
Where you going?
Yeah, where you going?
Where you going?
Was it something like that? She actively does that all the time.
No, so so it was more so. So I get up early now. Still, I get up very very early and study and pray and do things. And Jermika doesn't have a problem with that. But what I notice is that when I would first get up in the house when we lived with each other, I would get up, I would come do my stuff, and I would just leave. And in my head, I'm thinking I don't want to disturb her to get her up, like to get her up or to do anything like that. Not knowing in my head, she wanted me to just come say bye or something like that. So I would come and do my stuff downstairs and then leave to not disturb her. So my idea wasn't to be like, I'm gonna just go do me. It was like, oh, she's asleep, let her sleep, don't break up her sleep pattern or anything like that. And then eventually, like, we understood that that was important to her. I didn't understand that because to me, I thought, why break up her sleep? Why break up her sleep when I can just let her sleep that entire time?
And how did you take that, sis?
So yeah, he's absolutely right. So y'all, just so y'all know, on the podcast, my husband is so he's just so like calm and
like
just,
Henry.
Yep, just so calm and can't really ruffle his feathers. Me, no, I'm like calling in the morning, like, where you at? Right. You know what I mean? I'm like, you don't walk out of here. You know what I mean? Like,
you might say,
like,
nice to me.
Right. I heard your voice. You didn't walk out of here. Like,
so my reaction was, let me say this, and I hope I get a little moment just to kind of go back. But initially I was cool with it because I had this way about myself that preceded our marriage. And so I wasn't in tune. I was just like, you do you, I'm gonna do me. We come back together, you know what I mean, at the appointed time, at the end of the day, whatever. But then when I started processing that person that's before me, before we got married, my old self, that's when I started being like, okay, wait a minute. I want to talk to him in the morning, or like, I just want to just like, you know what I mean? Not wake up and be like, oh, he's gone. I didn't even, it's like a thief in the night. I don't want to say it like that, but that's how it felt, Mm-hmm. So yeah, so there was stages of that for me, for real.
That's not how she said it. Like, it wasn't that calm and stuff like that.
We can imagine. We understand.
I'm very sure. I'm very sure. I know exactly how that conversation went. But you made a point, Drew. You made a point in the beginning when you first started talking about this. You said there are some aspects of yourself that you do have to change, but you don't have to give up who you are.
Yeah.
I think that is a really important thing to point out too, because I think that a lot of people want to say, you shouldn't have to change who you are when you get married, right? How many times have you heard that? You shouldn't have
Lots of times.
Right? And you should not have to change who you are down in your core. You should not have to change your core values. You should not have to change the things that you like to do and your desires. But when we're talking about coming together in a marriage, right? Like I always used to tell Henry how hard it was to become one. Because it was like we had to shed so much of our old selves to like mesh together, and it was this really hard, like growing pains, like, when they talk about children and their bones are growing so fast that it's painful. That's what it felt like for us when we became one. What's the look for?
Because I don't think that's entirely true. I think it was a lot.
Okay.
From your perspective, like you spoke on, like you shouldn't have to change from the core. I don't think you should change. I think you should adapt.
I like that.
And I think there was a lot of adapting that had to go on. I'm not gonna say how much on this side, how much on that side. But I'm gonna say that there was a lot of adapting. What's wrong?
I'm great.
That's why it's called marriage unmastered. You can't master this thing. This is what happens.
I'm just saying, what I said was my truth. However, if Henry doesn't agree with that, that's Henry's prerogative.
I agree.
I adapted in some ways, but there's things about me that I definitely did not change.
Mm-hmm.
And there's things like and I'm just gonna say, like, when it comes to core values, like, so when I prayed for a husband, right? There were core values that I knew that a person could not be taught. There was, I wanted them to be family oriented. That's not something you teach. If that's not who they are when you meet them, they're not going to be family oriented. I wanted him to have a relationship with God prior to me. I didn't want to have to drag somebody and be like, oh, love Jesus. That needed to already be embedded. And so there's core values in a person that should not have to change. You shouldn't want them to change. You should love those things, those core values. But when you start meshing together, I believe that's where the adaptation comes in. That's where, okay, single Shireal used to do this. Single Shireal used to wake up in the morning, do her thing, leave the house for 6 hours, don't tell nobody, come back. As married Shireal, that's not something that I get to do anymore.
Yeah, them mashed potatoes was like real lumpy in the beginning of the marriage, and they had to get smoothed out. I'm talking theoretically.
Okay. But bringing it back to y'all, so I love that example. So what's another example of like something that you didn't realize was gonna be a challenge when you got married and y'all had to talk it through and fix it? Can you think of another example?
I got a ton, but you
got a ton. Okay. So
You wanna what they call it when you go to court? I need a sidebar.
Can I approach the bench, Your Honor?
Listen, write it on that paper for you. But anyway, that's I'm gonna say because it affected both of us greatly. It affected our whole household because with us, we have a blended family. So when we got married, I already had an older daughter who was a teenager, right? And so now I have been a single mom for 13 or so years. And so when I think back on that, there was no man in our lives. And so I could never replace a man, but I definitely had the responsibilities that many times in marriage that we weigh together. I was doing it on my own. And so there was a capacity that built up in me that I brought into our marriage. And so it was like this capacity of like this, it's almost like I call it kryptonite, because when like Superman, you know what I mean? Like he had all these superpowers, he could do it, but when he got close to this kryptonite, it would weaken him. And so what used to help me as a single mom became kryptonite in our marriage.
Wow.
Yeah, it became really toxic. And I didn't realize that old me, which used to help me, right, to be able to manage it all and to do it all. There's only one person that could, when the water broke or when the furnace broke, there was only me. And so I brought that into our marriage, not knowing, and that impacted us greatly. So that's why I say that old me, that part of me, she had to die because she was no longer effective.
Oof, that's good.
Yeah.
What that makes me think about too, I am very conservative, believe it or not. I am in my core, I'm a very conservative, like my theories, the way I think the world should work. And I might get a lot of slack for this statement I'm about to make, but I do believe that there's a role for a woman and there's a role for a man. And there's a lot of things that in the world, especially as a Black woman, we have to be so strong and we have to be able to do all these things and handle the house and fix the boiler and go to work and take care of the kids. I don't believe in all that. I don't want to fix no boiler. I don't want to pay no bills. I really wish I didn't have to work. There's a whole bunch of things that you could do all those fixtures. I was about to say, don't pretend. Don't pretend. And I believe that the role of the man, even though I do work, my husband has said numerous times, listen, you don't have to. Like if I have to handle all the bills, I'll handle. And that's a core value in him that I wanted in a husband. Like I don't want to have to if we don't have to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So, and I believe that, but that also gives him the freedom to be the man, right? Like it gives him that the authority to make statements like, I'm providing this house, I provide for my family, I take care of and again, I might get a lot of slack for this, what I'm saying right now, but those are my beliefs, right? And I feel like that's what you were saying, sis, just now. Like, you had to let go of some of those things that you were doing because it didn't fare well for your relationship.
No. So yes, I'm agreeing with you. It was not beneficial when something broke and I just go get that wrench and start moving, and he like, what you doing?
Well, talk about that, Drew. What was your reaction?
I think my I can get slack for this too. I think when people go into marriage, all of us are like not equipped. As much as we think we are,
yes,
there's like so much stuff that could be discussed that's never discussed. Like, I was raised with a single mom. So my single mom, I saw her do everything a guy would have done. So I like almost saw that superwoman mentality all my life. So when we got married, it was as if I saw it all over again. And there weren't arguments we got into. We started realizing, like, I don't want you carrying all the weight. I don't want you doing all this. Like, let's figure it out together. And that alone was a big hindrance for us, because I saw it some way, she saw it some way, and we never talked about that before we got married at all. Like, we never talked about, how do you handle when something happens and something breaks, or somebody loses a job or something like this? Like, how do you handle those things? We never discussed those things. And I'm not saying this in a bad way. Marriage counseling never brought those things up. It was more so just like, be faithful to your wife, be good to her, be friends, stay friends. That's it. There's like those type of things are the things that will rock something. So it didn't feel bad. I did feel for a long time, and I voiced to Jermika that she didn't need me. And I was like, you do it all on your own. Like, I'm pretty much just here to like take up space. And I think I said it just as calm as I'm talking now. It wasn't said in a way where like I'm doing a shot. I'm like, how can we come to some type of agreement where we're gonna work on helping each other break out of these old ideas or perspectives of how we see these things. And that's something we talk about to this day. Like, if we could have did it all over again, we would have talked about so much stuff ahead of time, so that when we got to the altar, we had a lot of answers before we went and made the move. But it didn't feel bad because I knew she wasn't doing it to be spiteful. I knew she's had one daughter that she had to take care of for 12 years. And I saw my mom take care of 4 kids by herself all of my life. So at one point I was like, I think this is what women do, when that's not what they're supposed to do. That's what they had to do.
Wow. Please call on me.
Go, Henry.
Henry, take the floor.
Yeah, because you said something so powerful. Like, you told her, like, what was your words? You don't need me.
Yeah,
So,
I said, I don't think you need me.
yeah. So to you, Jermika, how did you feel when your husband said, I don't fit in, we're married, but I don't fit into your life?
Wow.
Yeah, that that actually made me have to process my emotions, because keeping it 100, and he knows this, I've said this to him as well, 100. And on the application side, I was like, well, I don't, on the application side. But I was like, I need you emotionally. Like, I need you. You're the only, this is the only time in life that I ever felt that I needed somebody in my life in order to like, not just like add value, but to survive. Like, I never needed that. I didn't. I was emotionally like just unengaged. Like, honestly, even as a young person, I was always very independent, very like isolated. You know what I'm saying? And so when he said that to me, it was more of an emotional, like, well, I need you. Even though I might already know how to fix the toilet. You know what I'm saying? Like, that practical aspect, I was like, I just do that because that's like, it's an automatic for me because I did it before. But I want you to be clear, like, I need you. Like, if you did nothing else, like, I need you for me. If that makes sense. So I had to process like my feelings and be able to articulate my emotions with him because my movements weren't matching. He was like, you say that, but I don't see it in your movements. You know what I mean? You pick up all 8 bags of the groceries and I'm sitting on the couch and you walk by me with 8 bags like on your back. You know what I'm saying? Like he was like, that's not matching when you say you need me there for you.
Let's clarify.
You good though, because
not just sitting on the couch, just chilling on some random.
I got you. I know the way she presented it, I was like, niggas, like you just
like
allow her to
he
come
was
on
there
board.
playing Madden.
Nah.
I was like, wasn't doing that.
I got
the
Thank you for clearing
podcast
that up,
not on
brother.
yet, so
Thank you for clearing that up.
They know.
Yeah, nah.
it's something that I often say to Shireal, it's okay to be valuable and vulnerable at the same time.
That was
Like
good.
it's yeah. That was interesting. It's okay though.
Yeah.
It is. And I feel like when I heard my brother Drew say, you don't need me, I felt like that was a very vulnerable moment. But I also feel like that's a moment of truth where it's like, do you even want me here? You know, like if I don't feel needed, it's because I feel like you don't want me.
Right.
You know, so that brings a whole new level of that issue up, you know, because we could just you continue to do all the things and I can go over here and do them somewhere else, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You know, or not even be roommates. If you could
That's
just
the key.
you know.
I'm sorry, that's the key though, because it's a lot of people that do that. They never address the feeling or the feeling of not feeling needed or connection, and they just live these separate lives, but it looks like they on the same track until something happens. So you see it. People together for 20 years, all of a sudden they're not together anymore because something happened that exposed just how far they were. And when you said that to me that time, I was like, okay, I gotta check myself. This ain't even about him anymore. It wasn't. I was like, there's something still in me that is not connecting with the wife that I am, because he found a wife. I didn't become a wife. That's what we believe scripturally. He found a wife, but like I didn't identify with her because I was still that single girl.
I think something that I want to add that could help is something that we said it a lot, you know, through arguments and stuff like that. Like, hey, I'm saying this, I'm not saying I'm out. Like, I'm not saying I'm leaving. I'm saying how I feel right now, or what this made me feel, so that we can address it together. And that wasn't the case in the beginning. It was like people on the opposite teams until, like, you know, Jermika always said, like, I'm on the same team. Like, we're on the same team. Let's battle this problem together, not each other. And as good as that sounds, it didn't happen like that immediately. Because my fear was, if I tell her she doesn't need me, then it's gonna be over. She could literally be like, well, I don't need you. And I'm like, then I go back to being single.
So hold on. When you were talking about like how y'all had arguments and then you had to develop into saying, hey, like we're on the same team. We had a conversation with a marriage therapist a while back. And she said anytime her and her husband would get into arguments, like steamy arguments, he would grab her hand and say, hey, I'm not your enemy. And immediately it would just bring her down. Help her realize that, okay, we're in this together. So we have a problem, not you or not me, but us together. So let's problem solve and like do conflict resolution.
And I feel like in that same conversation, wasn't that when they said, we're not fighting each other, we're fighting the problem. You know, so I feel like that's like a big thing for married couples too, like, because we're gonna argue, we're human, it's, you know, things are gonna come up, we're living a life together, but fight the issue, not each other. You know, come together because you're a team and figure out what is the issue, how do we get past the issue, how do we overcome the issue. So
keep it real, sometimes that issue be hard because it'd be like, you are the problem, Henry. Like
you are the issue.
You are the problem, Shireal. Like, so see, you ain't.
It's definitely not usually me. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Okay. Okay.
It's definitely not usually me, I'm just saying. But I think that, you know, the really interesting thing about this topic itself is I think the debate that happens, because there's going to be people that say, you know, you shouldn't have to change. And there's going to be people that think how we think, like there's aspects of changing that will have to happen. But then what about the people that say you need to change everything?
Well, I think if you want someone to change everything, there's two things happening. A, you never loved that person for who they were in the beginning. Because I didn't fall, like people say it all the time, I didn't fall in love with Jermika to be me. I didn't fall in love with her to become a version of me at all. Like I fell in love with her because of who she is. The things that I may not have preferred about her or she preferred about me, that's a preference unless it's harming our relationship. So that's a preference. But I think if you want someone to change everything about them, you're selfish, you're immature, and you're not ready to change yourself because changing is hard. It's confronting a way you've lived. It's asking someone to do something different. And then what's the benefit of them doing that? So they can please you? If that's the case, then it's like you probably shouldn't get married. Because that's gonna be the most challenging relationship you ever have in your life. That's gonna require some, as the good brother Henry said, adapting.
Yeah, I think that also to just add to that, for your marriage to be successful and to be in the place where God wants to be, you have to show the most ugliest parts of yourself to your spouse. And in turn, they should accept that and learn how to manage it.
Funny story that happened just today with Henry and I. We were all sitting down for dinner. A lot of our stories revolve around dinner, but anyways, we were all sitting around for dinner. And the kids had just gotten up and they were putting their plates away and Henry was finishing up and my nose started to run. So I took my napkin and I started to like try to like clear my nose, but it wasn't working. So I blew my nose and I was like, ew, that's disgusting. I was like, I'm so sorry. I just blew my nose at the table. And he's like, it's all right. He's like, however, if this was like one of our first dates, I'll be like, this chick right here. You know,
I let her know, like
it's like those ugly moments though, right? That you don't anticipate. And I'm like, and I'm thinking about on our first date, I would have never, I'd have got up, excuse me, I need to go to the ladies' room. You know, like
you get the person that Instagram page on that first date, like this is who I am, this is what I do. Yeah, bye.
Blowing my nose at the table, like how disgusting. But you know, it's things that I think too, like not even things that you need to change. I think there's a lot of things about Henry, and I'm sure there's a lot of things about me that I compromise, not compromise, or I just deal with. Like, you know what I'm saying? Not necessarily like I love that about him, but I'll deal with it because of all the other great things, right? Like he's not perfect, I'm not perfect, but those imperfections, I'm just like, whatever, you know, because there's a million other great things about him that balance out, you know, those imperfections.
Girl, you about to get the check talking like that.
Got it already. You know what I'm saying though? Like there's like none of us are gonna be perfect. And I think that's a misconception too, coming into like your marriage at first. Like, oh, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be so exciting. It's gonna be all these wonderful things. But you're not set up for the things that are like, ew, that's disgusting. Ew, he does that. Why he don't pick his socks up? Why are they all over? You know what I mean? Like,
all right.
Those are the things like, but okay, fine. I guess I'll pick up the socks because, you know, he's paying the mortgage. You know?
You can't pay rent and do your socks?
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like there's those compromising things too. Like that I'm not even gonna ask him to change that. I might nag about it, but I'll pick him up, you know?
Yeah. There's something you said though. I think you said it, Shireal, when you said that we see the most what was it? One of you said we see the most vulnerable parts of each other or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I there's been times where I know I've said to Drew, like, all right, of course you compromise in certain things, but like, I'm like, I will fight you for you sometimes. Like, if there's something where I'm like, nah, this is not okay. Like, this part right here, like, we need to talk about this and process this. This is not, it's not a deal breaker, of course, because we in this for the long haul, right? But this part right here, we need to process why we do what we doing. Not, you know what I'm saying? Like, if it's about socks and all that, then whatever, we'll process that. We'll deal with that. But I'm talking about where you see the most vulnerable side of me, right? So if you see something that you're like, nah, that's not even you, Jermika, right? Like that part right there, what is that? Challenge me in that. And he's the only person, I'm just saying for me, that can. Like I try like to like, you know what I'm saying? Somebody else say something to me, it's like, But like when Drew says something to me, you know, I'm like, well, wait a minute. He's the only person that's seen every single aspect of me.
Given it, I'm not saying this to expose anything, but give an example of what you mean by that. Because I think for listeners, I think when we think someone shows us something about, shows us something about themselves, that it's like some big fight, or it has to be like harsh or something like that. Like, give an example if you have an example of me showing you something about yourself or something like that.
You show me something about myself. Oh, like sometimes I go into what I call train mode, right? Train mode is a safeguard for me that when things get really hectic, like if kids running around and you got your boss calling, you got all these things, I'll get tunnel vision where I'm not very I'm not very emotionally engaged. I'm very task oriented, right? Okay. And so when I go there, I generally will wait till the train slows down on its own. You can't do that when you have a family. So like they looking at you talking and you like not even there, or you know what I'm saying? Like he exposed that to me and said, listen, that train mode, whatever that thing is that you do, like we got to figure out why you do that for one. And then for two, like how we get you back when you go there, there. Wow. And I was like, I didn't even realize I did that. So that would be my example where it's like, that's not advantageous to the family. Like that might've rocked out before when you was just doing you by yourself, but we need you.
Wow. So I'm just going to say, I think I do that. I definitely will just go like, like tunnel vision it on in. Like, you know, when we have like a whole bunch of things going on and we have to get something done. So I definitely do that. Do I do?
Yes.
Yeah.
We just didn't know what it was. You gave it a word. I mean.
Yeah, you gave it a word. I'll just be like, not right now, not right now. You know, okay.
Well, I think that goes back to something I told Jermika. We're both creative people. We probably can do 80,000 things. But recently, we always say, just so we don't turn into like train modes and turn into like just straight beast mode and these things, what's the main thing that has to be happening with us? We got to keep connecting, right? If we don't keep connecting, everything great that we do, it would be a blessing to the world. It would be amazing. We'll put our all into it, and then we won't connect, and then we lose. So the whole train mode thing was more so, I was like, if you go train mode, let's put a time limit on it. Like, go train mode for 2 hours, go in a different room or somewhere else so you could train mode and us not look at you typing resumes, calling prayer meetings, and then talking to us at dinner at the same times. So I'm like, hey, like, I understand train mode. Like, I understand that. I'm not saying you have to eradicate it forever, but do it somewhere else so that when you come back to us, like we're there. Like we're all there, not wishing we were still at the computer working when we're all hanging with each other.
I love that. All right, so we definitely are excited about this conversation. We're going to have to wrap this up because we could keep talking and talking and talking. But before we do, Drew and Jermika Cost are out here, y'all. They have a lot of things going on. Like you heard Drew say, they're both creators. They both have their own businesses. They have businesses together. So we want to hear about those. Please let us know where we can find you, how we follow you. Give us your information, fam.
Jermika is my my manager in business, so I'm kidding.
She's not smiling. She's like, yes, I am.
We're actually forming something to bring a lot of the things that we did to one type of piece. So right now, just Drew Cost. That's my name.
Okay.
Everywhere. Jermika has some cool.
And I am Jermika on Instagram and Facebook, and I also have our store, shopwithmika.com.
Yeah, so y'all make sure y'all follow them, subscribe, buy some things from shopwithmika.com. She's being very, very vague about this, but it's for a great cause. She's helping with eradicating sex trafficking, really. So definitely make sure y'all check them out.